Hi, Jeromy Young here, CEO of Atomos, and I'm here to tell you today about quad switching and 5.7k from the EVA1 support, which is pretty awesome. Directly to ProRes RAW, as you guys know, we are the first to record ProRes RAW. So what do we have here today? Well, we're emulating a 4-camera switch, which is coming from our Shogun Infernos. We didn't bother setting up a whole camera system for you, but how you would do that is you'd bring the SDI in from the camera into your Sumo. So here's our 4 feeds coming in. They're all separately done. And in this firmware, the first firmware for switching 1.0 for our Atomos products, which is in our 9.1 firmware, this is our synchronizer. So either you have a Genlock system within your studio that is connected to each camera, and if your cameras are not on a Genlock system, then the quad switching on Sumo is not functional. So for the first 1.0 version, you need to be synchronized. Therefore, you will need a synchronization Genlock unit. We're using an AJA Gen 10 here, which is what we've been testing with, and it works extremely well, as you can see here today. So these are all going into our Inferno. So we're emulating a Genlock camera, and we're all playing out of each Inferno from the Genlock source. So they're all frame accurately synchronized from the source, which is this Gen 10 from AJA. That's Gen 10 from AJA. Coming out of this Shogun Infernos into the Sumo. So let me move across to the Sumo over here and just run through what is happening here. So first of all, we have our 4 feeds coming from our 4 units, and they are now playing back. So let me go back and show you the difference, the upgrade here that's happened. So we've got our ISO, our record. When we've got 4 inputs coming in, our record button switches to an ISO. It doesn't say record anymore, it says ISO. And that would record the one feed that I'm on here. How do I switch between the feeds? Well, I can touch each one of these feeds and switch between them, and that switches my program. So this would be a single record and a single record on the output. So I'm looping out to another Shogun Inferno here to record the program out. So I have 4 inputs coming in, and I'm recording all 4 of these, but my output is the switched output. So if I stop that, a lot of people asked us, well, how can I see all of my multi-view 4 inputs on the Sumo, sorry. What we've added is the monitor button. So if I hit monitor, that takes me to the multi-view mode. So here I can see quad inputs up to HD P60, 60p HD on each of these. At the moment I'm on 1080p 25. And I've got 4 inputs coming in. And what happens on each of these is whichever input I'm in, you'll see the ISO here. And I can choose, what this tells you is that I'm recording it. If I turn it off, then I'm not going to record this feed. But I do want to record it because I want to show you the 4 recordings. But I can turn any of these on and off. If I want to go in and set up, because you have things like Atom HDR on each of the feeds on the way in, and you've got peaking and all the wonderful functions that you need to set up the camera properly. So you can click on next to the ISO that's on. If I click on this one, it goes to this one. Next to that is the show me that full screen version of that feed coming in. So I'm now on number 2. If I want to switch between, to set up each of those shots, and I've got all of the functionality available to me for each of the feeds. I've got my waveform, I've got my vector scope, I've got my focus peaking, all the wonderful things that Atomos customers know and love about the simple UI that we deliver to you. If I come in, I can now switch to feed number 1, and now I'm on feed number 1, and I'm in this circle. So what I want to do is, I want to show you a recorded 4 quad record with a program out. I'm recording the program out here. I'm going to hit record on all of these, and what's happening now is I'm recording 4 files onto the one disk, which is pretty cool because I can play back each of those as my ISO. So this is ISO 1, ISO 2, ISO 3, ISO 4, named so, and I can go in and choose any type of function. I can adjust my Atom HDR if I've got log or raw coming in. So here I'm looking at the whole 4 being recorded. Now, if I want to switch between on the program out, then I just quickly hit that and I'm switching between. Switch it between, switch between, and I'm doing all these switches and they're coming out on the program out and I'm recording that to another Shogun. So that's the first implementation. When I want to stop recording, I stop record. If I want to stop my ISO, then I stop my ISO up there. So I've got, this is the first implementation of switching from the Sumo. So that's Sumo 1.0. What we're working on now is Sumo Switching 2.0, which is an asynchronous version where they don't need to be synchronized through the Genlock source. The cameras don't need to be Genlocked. And we can record 5 streams onto the one disk. Now that is going to be pretty cool. But until then, we need you to synchronize the cameras. You need to then, if you want to record your program out, do what you've been doing from your current switcher, which is put your Atomos recorder there on the output, which we see a lot of customers doing from many different switching companies. But this now is a very simple way to record 4 ISOs. You need a separate monitor on the way out. They need to be synchronized. You have all 4 in there, and then you can go in and adjust the different settings. Remember, we've got ISO as record. That records all of the ISOs that are selected. We have playback, monitoring, and the monitor takes you to the multi-view. Let's go in and play back what we just saw. So how does this play back? Well, this is playing back the first ISO. If I go into my menu and go back up one, you can see I've got lots of different takes here. If I go to the last take and go in there, I've got 4 different ISOs in there. So I can play back ISO number 1. That's my first ISO, and I can scrub and edit and do all the normal things that I can inside my Atomos device. Go to number 2, and I can do the same thing. Scrub and edit, etc. Go to ISO number 3, scrub and edit. And there's a pretty cool function here that if I come in and I do an in-point, out-point cut edit, that will flow through to a multicam edit of favorites in Final Cut. So now we're not only doing switching, we're also taking that XML metadata from each of these ISOs that I'm checking, and I can come back and do another reject here. I don't like that one. That will also flow through to Final Cut. And as I do my different ISOs, now I've got lots of different functionality that I can flow through to my edit later on. And what that does is give us a much faster starting point to do a fast edit for your customer, get it out to them. You can do a much more complete edit after the live stream of the switch. You can record your program feed, you can program feed that out, and it's very, very flexible, the solution here. So don't forget, I'm playing back all of my 4 ISOs together. You can choose which one you want to play back, you can check each one, and then you can metadata tag that, and that XML file will then flow through into Final Cut and be represented as a multicam edit, which is really fast and intuitive, and they're all synced up nicely with audio and with video. So how does the audio work? I hear most of you say. Let's go back and let's show you how the audio works. Each one of these inputs, you can see, has audio channels. As I touch the audio channels, I've got my audio 1 and 2, and I've also got audio 3 and 4 if I touch on there. Then I've got audio 3 and 4, which is always from the analog source coming in to the Sumo. So you've got one source coming in, analog 3 and 4. Channels 1 and 2 come from the camera and therefore is switched with that switch feed. So each ISO will record its own digital audio channels 1 and 2, and then you can have a global analog setting coming into the Sumo, probably mixed down from an external mixer, into channels 3 and 4, which will be recorded in each ISO channel. So channels 1 and 2 are coming from the camera in digital. Channels 3 and 4 are always the analog mixed down input into the Sumo from the XLR high quality inputs coming from there. And you've got phantom 48 volt mics that you can utilize, and we've got also different line level inputs for you to play with. So all of the embedded analog audio, channel 1 and 2, channel 3 and 4, you can choose that. So you can move it around, but we recommend 1 and 2 are coming from the camera. And if I turn record on, you can see I've got the second channel coming from all of my my Shoguns over here, which would be your camera in a real life scenario. Also want to mention that we've got these cool AtomX accessories which are going on sale very soon, and they allow you to move this unit up and down to make sure that you've got the right ergonomics for when you're switching. And we're kind of changing the way that switching works in the field. You can now have one monitor, all your cameras coming in, switch using your fingers and your hands, and record the program out. So that's the Sumo Switching. The last thing I want to show you is and explain is the Shogun and Sumo 5.7k update for the EVA1 directly to ProRes RAW. You can now capture that beautiful wide 5.7k from the EVA1 and give you that cinematic experience in a very cool, affordable solution from Panasonic. And right now, we have a special on in the US and also now rolling out through Europe and Asia is some money off when you buy an EVA1 and a Shogun together. So that's a beautiful combination, 5.7k. Both Panasonic and Atomos are giving a substantial amount. It's around $700 off the combination of a Shogun Inferno and an EVA1. So take a look at your local reseller, ask them about the Sumo as well as the 5.7k for your Inferno or your Sumo. Sumo now has switching, 1.0, 2.0 to come. We expect that to come out in the next month or so, and happy shooting to all those Atomos users.